Welcome back to our reading through the Bible of 1 year. We come into our reading from Deuteronomy 29 through Joshua chapter 8. Remember, we want you to do more than just reading. We want you to understand what you're reading. So I'm introducing and telling you what we want you to be looking for as you do your reading. Remember, we're here in the book of Deuteronomy, still beginning chapter 29. And remember, the book of Deuteronomy is literally, it's Deutero, second law, but we'll just call it the redo. And this is basically God addressing the next generation, that they learned the example of an unbelieving generation, their parents. And that's, remember, why they were 40 years wandering. Well, now these are the children who grew up in the desert, and they're being prepared to enter into the promised land. So we pick it up with chapter 29. And God establishes what is called the Palestinian covenant. This is the covenant that God makes to the children of Israel over the land. The children of Israel would inhabit this land, the land of Canaan, as a gift from God. This is the land that was promised to Abraham and to Isaac and to Jacob. The reminder is that, of course, this land is given you as a gift of God. But if you turn away from God, the promise is you will be scattered. Now, there will be later a reunion to this land. But presently, out of their disobedience, they will be scattered. And of course, as we read in history, that's exactly what happens. Chapter 30, the covenant is ratified. And then the book concludes with a transition in leadership from Moses to the new leader, who's going to be Joshua. Moses charges Joshua and the people. And then the book of Deuteronomy ends with the death of Moses. Now, as we move into the book of Joshua, the theme of the book of Joshua is Israel's possession of the promised land. And again, God will bless obedience. God will discipline and punish disobedience. Joshua is commissioned by God, and then Joshua prepares the people for the conquest to move past the Jordan River into the land of Canaan, the promised land. And he does this basically in these first 5 chapters. New spies are going to be sent out. And remember, they go across, they meet this prostitute named Rahab, but because of her faith in the true God, their lives are spared. And what's interesting is Rahab, a Gentile and who was a prostitute, she's going to be mentioned in Matthew chapter 1 in the very genealogy of Jesus. I mean, is God a God of mercy and forgiveness? But then you're going to see God's engagement at the very beginning, because he opens the waters of the Jordan, just like he did with the Red Sea. He opens the river Jordan so they could cross. And not only that, he put the fear of the Israelites in the very hearts of the Canaanites. So Joshua prepares the people to take the land. He does this by introducing circumcision. Ouch. And Passover is celebrated. And then the commander of the Lord, which you'll have to try to figure out, is that an angel, powerful angel, or is that the Son of God himself? And he gives assurance to Joshua of victory as they move into the promised land. Well, in chapter 6, the attack begins, and the first town is Jericho. In the most remarkable way you'll read, Jericho is defeated. But then they go ahead and they think this is going great, so they attack the second city, Ai. And surprisingly, they lose. So they got to figure out what the problem is, and they do figure out what the problem is. And then they have the second attack, and that one's victorious. Well, the results of these victories in Israel, they're worshiping God and renewing the covenant. So again, as you enjoy your reading this week, this is what I want you to be looking for. And remember, study to show thyself a workman who needed not be ashamed of himself, rightly dividing the word of truth. God bless your reading this week.